This is the Investor Mindset Podcast, and I'm Steven Pesavento. And for as long as I can remember, I've been obsessed with understanding how we can think better, how we can be better, and how we can do better. And each episode, we explore lessons on motivation and mindset from the most successful real estate investors and entrepreneurs in the nation. All right, guys, welcome back to the Investor Mindset Podcast. I am very excited today. I have Mike Foster in the studio. How you doing, Mike?
Doing great, man. How are you?
I am doing really well. I'm doing well. I'm excited to dive in because Mike was a United States Naval Academy grad and is a podcast host of Active Duty Passive Income. He recently left his role as a naval officer to become a full-time real estate investor and to help others down that same path. And while active, Mike was fortunate enough to have had several remarkable mentors that taught him the importance of credit building, creative financing techniques, and wealth building strategies. And since then, he's acquired multiple real estate investments, owns several business, and is super passionate. I'm excited to dive into his mindset. You ready to get into things, Mike?
I'm ready, man. Hey, thanks so much, Steven, for bringing me onto the show. I'm really glad to be here, talk to your audience, and I'm super fortunate to have you on our show too. So excited for that release as well.
Absolutely. And for everybody who wants to listen to that, just a little bit about me, obviously you can go check out the Active Duty Passive Income podcast. And it's a really great episode. But without further ado, obviously you've lived a full life and you're still living it. But why don't we start out by taking a look back? What events or influences from your childhood shaped who you are today?
Oh man, that's a phenomenal question, dude. I gotta say two things, really shaped where I'm at now. One of them having been some of the challenges that I faced in family with health and death. It's been crazy. So full disclaimer, I lost my mom back when I was 6 years old. And from that moment on, I started to experience death in a lot of a different way, if that makes sense. Really, really deep, going in first, but I lost my aunt, which is her sister after that with sickle cell. We had a lot of health issues within the family, and just, it seemed like, early on in life, yeah, I know, really deep here, but early on in life, we had so many deaths, just one after the next. And so I learned at a young age that the importance of being able to live life to the fullest, right? Because there's no promise and guarantee of another day. Even for the point where you're going to have all of your limbs or all of, your wellness, even just in your mindset, you have to take advantage of every single moment that you have. You have to cherish, right, your life with the people that you're spending time with. I mean, it's super important. And I think that, where I am at now and where I was as a kid, I've learned, even through all the various experiences that I've had through the military and through investing, how true that is, right? Because there is no guarantee. I mean, anything can happen. You can get hit with a mortar, or you can, it was just last year, 2 years ago, there were a bunch of sailors that passed away on a ship because, in the middle of the night, people standing watch weren't paying attention, and we collided into another ship. And, what happens is the ship starts to flood. You have to fight that casualty, and somebody had to seal the door to a hatch where they knew there were people still on the other side that got flooded out. And it's, it's crazy. And I'm sure those people were probably asleep and didn't even realize what happened until it was too late. Right. So, I mean, it just goes to show. Yeah.
It's such a reminder, really, that life is precious and that we really need to appreciate the time that we have. And what was that like? It sounds like you were very young when that happened, but what have you taken away from that, or how has that kind of affected you, moving forward?
Man, I gotta say, it's one of those things that has helped me get over the fear of just getting started, right? Because there's no guarantee that you're going to be success at anything you do. The only guarantee that you have in that success is your ability to continue moving forward despite all the odds. To me, that's success. To me, there's no end goal there. It's just how can you continue to move forward? Yes, you're going to get set back in your goals. Yes, you're going to get set back in your journey, but can you continue to move forward? Right? There's no, all right, well, I need to hit this, and that's my measure of success. I mean, sure, right? I mean, everyone needs visual goals, but if you are continuing to move forward to that visual goal, even if you don't get there, you get the feeling and the satisfaction that you've made progress, and that is success as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Well, it's funny how that is, that you go through something that is absolutely super challenging, losing your mother, losing your aunt, losing people that really, they are your world when you're a kid. They're everything. But to be able to look at it with that kind of a mindset that you think, well, hey, even though this is terrible, I'm going to use it to do good things with my life. And I think that is something that all of you listeners really need to remember, is that challenges can either be something that we learn from and that drive us forward, or they can be something that hold us back. And the people who are successful, they make sure that they change that story into something that is powerful for them.
That's it. That's exactly it, man. You got to change that story, because the moment you get into your head about anything is the moment that you start to let doubt and fear creep in. And that's what continues to block that success, for you achieving that goal, whatever it is in life. So yeah, it's huge, man. You got to get out of your head.
It's so key. That's so key. So tell us, what is your primary focus, and what do you do? What's your craft?
Yeah. So now, since leaving the military, I invest in real estate. I have done single family. I've done short-term rentals, moving into the commercial game now, the multifamily space. And I've found a passion in teaching other military members and veterans how to accomplish this financial freedom through real estate. It really started out with my VA loan. And once I was able to find out how I can buy a house with zero money down, especially with all the debt that I had at that time, and be able to start my journey in building wealth, that has just opened up a world that I am trying to share with as many veterans as possible. Because while you're in the military, there's this constant, I don't want to say fear, maybe that's not the right word, but I guess there's this constant mantra that, we're mission focused and nothing else matters. But what happens when you have to take off that uniform, right? What happens when your mission is done, and how do you assimilate back into the world? And I think that there is a big problem that we as veterans have in that transition. So being able to have that secondary mission that you can apply a little bit of time and focus to when you're not, on the X is what we call it, like when you're not on deployment, and building that wealth as you move from duty station to duty station, when you're ready for that transition, whenever that point is, right? You have that stability to say, okay, I have something coming in every single month where I can confidently step out onto my own and figure out this new thing, which is the real world. So I'm excited about that mission, and my teammates and I, we're really passionate about what we do.
Yeah. And you're really doing really cool things in that space by kind of creating a community of other military folks who are all going through the same thing. They might not be going through the same exact niche in real estate, but they are able to connect together and really share some of those challenges that they're dealing with, which I think is really huge. And for me, community is such a big thing. I learned so much by surrounding myself with other people who are already doing what I wanted to do, or other people who wanted to learn the same thing that I wanted to learn. And, how has community impacted your life, both from a business standpoint and from a personal standpoint?
Man, community is everything. Actually, this was one of the things I wanted to mention too in the beginning, is that community is the most important thing in anyone's growth and development. At a young age, I learned that having your family close by really helps you get through a lot of those hard times. And I just kind of over the years, as all the kids, right, have grown up, we've kind of grown apart. And I was just at another funeral, sad to say, but I was just at another funeral 2 weeks ago or another one of our aunts that had passed. And we had realized that the family only comes together at these sad occasions, right? So it's time that we change that, right? We come together as a family and we start coming for positive reasons, right? Someone takes the initiative, plans the event, make it happen, right? I've kind of created that little team that we're doing there. But now translating that into investing in myself, I've noticed that if I don't change the space that I'm in, right, my thoughts, my mindset will continue to I guess reciprocate what's going on within that space. And for a long time, and I'm not trying to downplay the military at all, right? But for a long time in certain communities that I was in within the military were very negative. And I noticed that was having a large impact on my life. And so it wasn't until I was able to finally switch one of my duty stations where I really felt that positivity, that positive change I needed in the military to kind of really get myself back on my feet. And so when I translate that into investing, I went to my first event. And guys, I'm telling you, if you have the opportunity to go to an event where you can network with other like-minded individuals, it is so game-changing. It's incredible. I mean, the fact that you get to be in the same room with a bunch of other fiery entrepreneurs that are, passionate in purpose in the same direction that you're heading, it's game changing. And then being able to take those relationships, like Steven, we met at Rod Khalif's event, right? His multifamily boot camp in Denver. And now here we are, sharing podcasts together. It's phenomenal, man. And you never know what opportunities will open up at that point, after you've connected and you've made that network. So definitely community is huge, man. I love that.
It's so key because there's the power of meeting and connecting with people, whether it's online in an online community or whether it's in person, where you get to exchange and you get to share the challenges that you've dealt with and you get to share the victories, at that same event, right? I met Rod Khalif a week before where he was at an event pitching that event. And that's the reason why I was able to get him on the podcast, because I was able to connect with him face to face. And that's the reason why he's going to be one of our premier speakers at the Investor Mindset Summit, which is coming up. And I'm going to make sure everybody knows how to get to that if you go to the show notes. But there is definitely something to that. And I want to underline something else that you said. And one of my coaches was talking about this yesterday in a discussion that I was listening to. And what he was saying was, when you have negative people in your life, you need to get rid of them immediately. Now, so sometimes people, sometimes those people are family members and sometimes you can't get rid of them, but you have to put up that blockade so that you can't let those little thoughts creep in, because whether it's in business and you have those little negative thoughts, I don't know, can you really do that? Should you really take that action? Is buying right now the right time? Or in your relationships, I don't know, all men are like this or all women are like this. And, when you start getting those kind of ideas into your head, even if you don't believe them, they start creeping in. And if there's any kind of void or gap, they put down roots and they start growing. And what happens when a tree grows right next to concrete? Eventually, that tree is going to take over and it's going to crack it. So we want to make sure that we are surrounding ourselves with the right people, and community is definitely key for that.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me a little bit about when you first got started in real estate. Talk to me a little bit about that first deal, because I know that you had some challenges there, and I'm sure there's some big learnings that we all can all take away.
Oh man, I'm still sitting in this first deal, by the way, guys. What you see right here behind me, this is the back wall of the living room of my first deal. And man, it has been challenging. Just with, so walking you through it, right? I found this driving back and forth to work. There was an open house sign. And I don't know what was calling me to go in, but something did. And I ended up building a relationship with the realtor that was showing it. He was a former Navy chief. So we had that common bond, but the seller was asking way too much for this house. Now, I was just getting started with real estate, and even I knew that it was way overpriced. But what I didn't know was that I walked into a situation where I used the seller's realtor to close, right, both sides of the deal. I used the seller's, inspectors. I used the seller's, like everything, right? lender, all that jazz. They appraised the property for even more than the property was worth, and I got swindled into it because I had a VA loan and my money was good, right? Because the VA was gonna back it and everything was good to go. So I had to get a little creative because my mortgage was a little higher than what I was making for my basic housing allowance, which is the allowance that the government gives us, right, for monthly living expenses. And I had to rent out the bottom. I mean, it was a duplex, right? So the property was a duplex. It's on the beach here in Norfolk, Virginia. And I rented out the bottom. And while I was on deployment, I had the creativity to just say, hey, let's try renting this out on Airbnb while I'm gone. I've got some friends in the area. I've got some family in the area. Let me see, if I can figure this out. And it became a little bit of a challenge with the management piece, right? There were definitely some challenges there with communicating with the tenants, communicating issues that I was having with some of the tenants that were either throwing parties or, doing something, stupid. And again, I have my long-term tenants downstairs that I had to manage, right? So being a property manager, I think was one of the biggest challenges I had. Then there was the issue where some of the stuff that I got from my inspection report didn't match some of the issues that I started having with the property, right? So, of course, there was all that. And so just learning a lot about the real estate process in general, being a homeowner in general, I had its challenges. But I must say that it was very rewarding because if I hadn't thought outside the box and, tried to do that crazy situation, that dynamic where I was renting one and doing Airbnb with the other, I don't think I would have been where I am today because I've been able to take some of those creative strategies in making money with the house and apply that into growing my experience, growing my portfolio, networking with other individuals that are in the area that can help me, overcome some of these challenges. So yeah, just stepping outside of that fear box and moving forward, that was huge.
Yeah. I mean, so when you can take a situation that isn't as great as you'd want it to be and you're able to make it into something much better, that's where, you really find that most growth is when you're really stretched. So, I mean, you talked about something earlier where you had used the realtor, you had used all the contractors, all the people from the seller side, and you said you felt like you were maybe swindled into it. So tell me what that feeling was like and what you would do differently in the future, because I mean, you made the decision, you decided to do it. So, I mean, but it's really easy when you're brand new to something, you really want it, that you're willing to kind of listen to anybody, even if maybe it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, man, that's a great question. And I got to say, it's one of those things where you don't know what you don't know, right? And I honestly didn't even think that about it until I had heard about not using the seller's, everything, right? There's the seller's network to buy real estate. I think I didn't hear about it until about a year after I'd already purchased the house, right? After I'd already done this Airbnb strategy and all that stuff. And then when I started to go back into my process and say, in hindsight, wow, I think I did get, taken advantage of, here in this purchase. Then I started to really realize, okay, yeah, I definitely could have done this a little better. And then here's how I would have done it better. Right. But at that point, what do you do? I mean, do you just kick yourself and say, oh man, well, this is why I shouldn't get into real estate? Like, no, absolutely not. You learn from those mistakes and you make a checklist and you say, okay, well, all right, the next time I get into this process, this is how I'm going to move forward. I'm going to use my own network. I'm going to, expand my network. First of all, I'm going to ask as many, different opinions for advice as I can without getting into the whole analysis paralysis phase. And then I'm going to move forward. And I understand that there are going to be mistakes that I make along the way, but hey, it's a difference between taking action and taking educated action. And once you take that educated action, you understand that you will run into roadblocks. You still know that you will be leaps and bounds better than just taking that action because you're emotionally charged to changing your future, right? So you got to understand the difference there.
I really appreciate that term right there, educated action. So we can go and rush out and we can take all kinds of action all day. This whole idea of massive action, let's 10x what we're doing. I'm a big believer in it, but what we really need to be taking is actually what you're saying here, Mike, educated action. We need to educate ourselves so that we know whether we're going to go and do the right things. We have to decide that we believe in ourselves and we're going to take the risk to go and do it, and then test and see, okay, well, was that the right action? If it wasn't, now I'm even more educated. I've learned from that, and I'm going to kind of keep iterating on that moving forward.
Yep. That's it, man. That's it. I was a naval officer, and one of the things that you learn, especially as a surface warfare officer, is risk management, right? And it's funny because when I got out of the military, it almost, my life almost went into the position where I was foregoing some of those risks and just saying, hey, I'm out now. I've got all this time available. Let me just go do this, and this, and see what sticks, right? I can be full entrepreneur mode. But I had to, reel myself back in. And I think, this happens to everyone in life, right? You got to reel yourself back in when you get excited from something and say, okay, am I really going about this the right way, right? Am I taking the necessary risks that I need to move forward? Or am I taking risks that are, outside of what I should be doing, right? In the Navy, we call it operational risk management, right? Or ORM. And so you need to apply a little ORM into, some of the risks that you're taking to make sure that it's going to pan out the way you want.
It's so important, and it's so important, but it's easy to forget about when you're passionate, when you're really excited because you're emotionally charged, that you want to go after something. You have to be reminded, hey, let's roll that back a little bit. Let's use that energy to go in the right direction, but let's not make reckless, stupid decisions. So talk to me a little bit about, I'm really curious, somebody who has dedicated their life to serving, joining the military, going the Naval Academy route. What was it like making the decision to leave that behind, and kind of talk to me about what you were thinking during that process?
Oh man. All right. You ready for another emotional roller coaster?
Please. Love those here.
Yeah. So my decision to separate from the military was definitely attributed to a lot of factors, right? I mean, the first factor was that I went into the military as a stepping stone, knowing that this was going to be something that led me into whatever greater purpose I'd find later on in life. I didn't know how long that was. And I saw that the military was a stable opportunity to get a good income, to have a fulfilling job, and to, really get to see the world and explore, which is what I wanted to do. So I always had this mantra that I would stay it until I saw a reason to get out. Long story short, I ended up finding a lot of reasons that I didn't want to necessarily stay. Where I saw the stability at first, right, and I was kind of in love with that. I later on saw that the stability was just a little bit too stable. And then my personality, I guess, as an entrepreneur didn't really jive with that. So I wanted a little opportunity to build something bigger. And so there were a lot of, little things that I would nitpick and say, okay, maybe this isn't the career choice for me. But I think what ultimately made me decide that this was not it for me was my last deployment. And man, this is going to be emotional. So I lost my aunt. And this was, so my sister, my mom, right? She had two sisters, and I lost that other aunt early on in life. This last one, she was a really big mother figure in my life. And I lost her in the middle of deployment, the same sickness. And it was weird because, she went to the hospital twice within the same week. And it was that second time where I knew something was wrong. And so I spoke to, my commander about it. I brought up the chain. Everyone knew what was happening. And I told them that there's a possibility that I could lose her this weekend. And I was hoping that I'd be able to go back. Now, it was a tall order. It was a tall ask because we were in the middle of deployment, right? And obviously, the mission comes first. And I knew that this commander had a policy where if it wasn't immediate family, right, there was no, chance in going
Oh,
back. But I figure, hey, like, shot in the dark, let me make it happen. Right. Anyway, long story short, I couldn't go. And that one hit me. That one hit me really hard, man.
mhm.
And it definitely, it's definitely not something that's unique to myself, right? I mean, there are so many folks in the military that experience it. It's one of the risks that we know when we sign and we raise our right hand up to serve. It's one of the things that we know we we're going to risk, but it's just
Wow.
something you don't think about, right, on the regular basis. And so that really was my decision to say, okay, I've been on the fence for so long and staying, and now this experience happened. That was my wake up call. And yeah, and so I put my papers in, man, and I never looked back. And really, I'm happy for the decision that I made. I really am. I mean, I loved, serving my country. I still, think I serve to this day, even, the folks that are out there, helping them achieve their financial freedom. I still feel it. And if, the military called me to go to war, I would suit up my uniform tomorrow and I'm going, right? And that's it. But,
I'm so I'm
yeah.
so sorry that you weren't able to be there, because I can tell that that person was really important to you, right?
Mm,
That your aunt was, almost like a mother, and that they couldn't make that exception, but you'd
yeah.
really join for that stability, that certainty, that significance of knowing that you're going to go out there and help people. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of all taken away when all of a sudden you realize, like, I don't really have the control over my future. I don't have control over myself to be able to go and be with my family when I think I need to be there. And it was in that moment, it sounds like, that decision was made. It was when you realize that maybe this is the final straw, and I've got to make that change. And how did it feel when you finally pulled the trigger and said, okay, well, I'm doing this and I'm going to start a new life?
Man, I'll tell you, it felt good because of what I had found up to that point through real estate. Real estate investing is just opened so many doors for me, and is lifted my confidence in the fact that me, someone who has no technical background, right? No, amazing super skills. I think my best superpower is that I can network with people and I can, communicate. Um, I can create an entrepreneurial lifestyle that can generate income to provide stability, not only for myself, my family, like my immediate family, but I can also build generational wealth for the family that comes after me. And I can have that control, right? I can create that stability within my life. That really was what did it. And even though I knew that at the point of separating, I wasn't there, I had a clear path to get there.
Mhm.
And that was all the confidence I needed to step out onto my own. And it felt good.
Something that's really big here that I want to underline for everybody is the importance of finding another path to go down before you decide that you're going to completely jump off of it. Because
Yes.
what ended up happening, it sounds like, for you, Mike, and fill in the gaps here or correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like what you had kind of been going down this path. You'd been thinking maybe there's another way,
Yeah.
and I want to do something different, but I don't really have exactly the map to do that. And by going and you found real estate, you found the passion, and you started to see the map so that you knew that you could get to that X on the map, and this is how you could do it. And so it was okay because you had a new plan. Even if you couldn't
Absolutely.
leave day one, right in that exact moment, you knew that, okay, well, while I'm still here, I'm gonna be focused on my path, on what I have coming. And something else that I want to point out is how important it is that when you set new goals, or when you're close to accomplishing a big goal, that you set a new one, that you have something to look forward to. Because in that same exact example, it's like if Mike would have just left the military without having that next path to go down, you would have felt lost, right? You
Yeah.
would have felt lost, and you wouldn't have really been sure where to go. But
You'd be so unsure. Yeah. I mean, there are so many people that are still in the military because they're still at that point, right? They're so unsure. And this is not saying that the military is a bad thing. I mean, the military is an amazing, amazing place to be, especially if you're passionate about doing it. But, like anything in life, right? Wherever you're at can get old if you allow it to be stagnant and you're lost and you have no clear path and direction on where you want to go. So, right, man. I mean, you got to have that passionate and purpose, in going where you're trying to go, and everything will be a little more fulfilling for you. That's it.
Well, I'm glad that you're out and that you're helping other people find some additional paths, because obviously it sets you up for the life that you're living now, and you're grateful for it. But I'm glad you're able to help some other people. So on that success note, how would you define success?
Man, I just, like I said it before, success is not defined. Success is not defined by the milestones that you hit in life. I know this sounds so controversial, right? Everything you've heard in success, it's like achieving goals, this and that, and this and that, right? If you died tomorrow, all the goals that you set for your life are done. So what really is the definition of success, right? When you look back at your life and you say, what have I done, right? Not necessarily just those goals and those mindsets, but looking at all the lives that you've impacted, right? The people that you've given something, a piece of yourself, for them to carry on that torch and maybe give to other people. That, to me, is the true definition of success, right? It's not about what you achieve in life. It's about, who you help get to other places, right? The impact that you leave behind on other people. That is the biggest definition of success. If I had 7,000 people at my funeral, all because, they made, I made them feel a certain type of way, and I helped them achieve something in life, and they just wanted to come to celebrate who I was as a person, that right there would be the biggest thing I can imagine in my life. And I will have felt, that I left this earth with purpose, and that was my success right there. A legacy that I left behind.
The legacy. I love that. And with that definition, do you feel successful?
I do. I certainly do, and it's not something that I say out of hubris or pride. It's something that I say that I've found my passion and I'm on this path. I'm not yet done. Right. I'll be done when, the good Lord takes me home. But I feel that, through my podcast, through the public speaking, through the network that I've created, and through, the people that, come to me and say, hey, Mike, you helped me get started in buying my first home. And I am so happy. Right. That to me is just all the fire in the world and the fuel to continue what I'm doing. And I hope that I can, do that and have that same impact for thousands of people on this earth. That's my goal.
The power of impact, man. It's so key. It's so much more important than money, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that I know. So talk to me about habits. What are some of your keystone habits, the things that you do on a daily or weekly basis that help you live a good life?
Oh man, habits are so super important, and it's super hard to keep when you have an ADHD brain like myself, man. But I think, some of the most important habits, that you definitely want to have in life are, getting a consistent workout schedule, whether it's every day, whether it's every week, or whether it's every month, right? Whatever it is, when you can get it in, all right? Because it's important to be physically healthy and then mentally healthy, right? Listen to podcasts or read books, right? Listen to this podcast, go back, re-listen to episodes, even if you have to, you know what I mean? Constantly keep your mind engaged, because if you don't keep your mind engaged, you're going to listen to your own thoughts. And sometimes your own thoughts are a lot darker than, what else is going on in the world. All right. So you don't want to hinder your own success. So constantly keep learning, keep reading. And then of course you have to take the time to break. I think that's one of the biggest habits that I've had to refocus in my own life, is just taking that time to reprieve and recharge, because you can't keep going. And you'll burn out, right? You'll burn out, and then now you're good to nobody, right? So you have to equally take as much time, that you need in order to break, and then, right, go back on your hustle, right? Because you're not done on this earth, man. You got to keep going. But those things for sure are the best habits that you got to build.
Well, those are some great habits that people can put into their life right today. And so we've made it to one of my favorite parts of the show, the growth rapid fire round, where the questions are quick, but the answers don't need to be. Tell us, what's a book that's impacted your life the most, or one you're excited about right now?
Oh man. Whew. That's a good question. I would say the book that's impacted my life the most is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Love that book. It's a short read, but it literally defines, everything that I think I epitomize in my life. So to have the biggest impact is finding your personal legend, right? Your goal, your quest, your purpose in life, and applying focus into finding it, right? Leveraging your resources around you, the people that you network with, to continue to achieve that destination or that purpose in life, and just make it happen. Not being afraid and letting anything hold you back.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful book for sure. If you haven't read it, check it out. I think I'm going to reread it now that you reminded me about it. From an inspiration standpoint, who were some of your mentors, and how do you look at finding great mentors in your life?
Wow, that's another good question. You know what? I'm going to say this, and this is going to be pretty interesting because I know everyone's heard this name before, right? Clayton Morris. Man. He's probably like a black swan in the real estate community now, and probably not for any good reasons. But I'm saying his name because, and this, I promise this is going to make sense. I'm saying his name because he was a huge mentor in my life when I first got started in real estate. Right, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I started listening to podcasts, and his podcast really inspired me to go out and take action. Now, maybe I can say a little bit better things about him because I didn't invest with him, right? So I didn't lose any money from the craziness that everyone keeps talking about. But what I learned in that time where he, helped me cultivate enough confidence to get started investing, I feel that I learned it was the confidence that was the biggest thing, right? That's really all you need. It doesn't matter who your mentor is. It doesn't matter who you're getting advice from. As long as it's positive advice and it's moving you in the direction that you need to go forward, it's a good thing. And what I mean by mentioning his name is that it didn't matter whose name I used. I used his name because I don't put my mentors on a pedestal like they're these amazing idols and that they're all these great beings that I want to be like. No, that I take little nuggets from amazing mentors like Robert Kiyosaki, like Grant Cardone, like Rod Khleif, right? All these amazing people that are doing something that I want to do. They inspire confidence and give me a roadmap to that success. And I take that piece and I keep moving forward. I add it to my map and I move forward. And that's it, right? So whoever your mentor is out there, wherever you're getting advice, understand that people are not perfect, right? And everyone makes mistakes. And even those mentors that you have at one point in your life can let you down in another side of it. But what did you learn? Right? Did you learn something? Were you able to move forward? That's it. That's all you need. And that's what you need to focus on, right? So don't put mentors in like a big pedestal as far as being a mentor, but make sure that you learn what you need to move forward, and don't be afraid to find a mentor, because that'll be the biggest game changer in your life.
What a wonderful reminder, right? Mm-hmm. That mentors don't have to be everything. You can learn one thing from that person and you could hate everything else that they do, but they could still be somebody to model in that space. Mm-hmm. So finally, here's a big one for you. Purpose. What drives you to live your best life every day, Mike?
Oh man, the ability to achieve that freedom, right, with my family and to make an impact helping other people achieve success. That right there is definitely what keeps me on path.
Well, I have loved this, and I can tell that you are living up to that purpose. And so I really appreciate you being on the show. Tell us, where can people find out more about you or get in touch?
All right. You guys can hit me up on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and then, active duty passive income. If you guys are military or veterans out there and you want to learn how to leverage those veteran benefits and achieve that wealth, come check us out at our podcast or www.activedutypassiveincome.com. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to help you guys achieve some of that success that you need. So, yeah, we'll see you there.
Love it. We'll have all of that in the show notes as always, guys. And, Mike, thank you. Look forward to the next time we get to hang out.
Thanks again, Steven. You too, man. Take good care and keep kicking ass on this podcast, dude. You're doing a phenomenal job.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you for listening to the Investor Mindset Podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Head over to theinvestormindset.com to join the Insider Club, where we share tools and strategies from the top investors and entrepreneurs on how to take it to the next level.